Okay, everybody. Leslie Rode here with Marketers Brain Trust. I am joined by the most of the other brains. Oh God, I just dissed all of our staff, didn't I? Sorry. Dan and Michelle, certainly.
Yeah, pretty much most of the brains.
Yeah, most of them brain. Yeah, right. That would be Michelle. And so, all right.
Exactly.
Apparently, SEO is a lot easier than Hangouts. I'm just saying. Um, there are two Hangouts on air, but only one of them had a start button. What can I say? Okay, so we'll let everybody kind of catch up here and join us. So we've got a couple of parts to the presentation today. So first we've got the magic of Text Broker. Maybe it's not actual magic, but it's at least some ins and outs and some tips that that Michelle has developed through using it. And then we've also got how to use Text Broker from ResultFlow. So those are really two different sorts of topics, but obviously you need to understand both of them to some level of, some level of skill in order to be able to do it. So, Dan, did you have some opening remarks, or do we want to? And actually, I'm a little bit lost here. Michelle, do you have a slide deck? I mean, Michelle was actually supposed to be adjudicating some, like, I don't know, murder trial or something today. And so it was probably a speeding ticket. I'm just exaggerating, but
somewhere between those two.
Yeah, good. And she can't be. Of course, she's been sworn to secrecy, jury tainting. So I don't know, Michelle. Do you have some things you want to lead off with, or Dan? Do you have something? Help me out here, because then we'll dive in.
Leslie, I've barely got enough bandwidth to almost not be able to hear you. So whatever you want from me, we'll have to try and get maybe later if we actually have more bandwidth. If you can hear any of that.
Oh my God.
Cool.
Okay.
That's awesome. So I don't have a slide deck, but I certainly can talk about sort of the test that I ran with Text Broker and some of the things that I learned. And we can share the link, if you'd like, to where I have the samples set up on our sort of our test blog, so they can kind of compare. And it was a bigger sample, not a tiny blog post, but more of a full featured post. And I certainly can share that as well. So.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and put that on the page then.
Okay. Let me grab that.
Yeah. We've looked at those. And so, and these were, did we actually post these for real clients? I know we did them, remind me, we did it on real client topics. I don't know if we actually pushed them out to client sites or not.
I have not pushed this out to the client site yet, because I wanted us to all just kind of see it and look at it. But any one of these would have been good enough. I do have my favorite, but they actually wrote, this particular one is on the same topic. In here, I'm putting over in, let's see, I'm going to put it in ResultFlow as well. I'm Slack, as well as over in the thing as well, the Hangout as well. Figure out which Hangout I'm in. Here we are.
Yeah, get the one where Dan says we're live, which is the actual one.
Yeah.
Pay no attention to the non-working one.
Yes, there we go. Here's the link for the writing samples. There we go. So now I'll put that in both places there. And really what was interesting is my first test was I kind of put 3 different topics out there just to sort of see what would happen. I did not include those sample here because they were wild and varied and difficult to compare. And it ended up that I'd given the more difficult topic to a level 2 writer and the least complicated topic to the most experienced writer. And the experienced writer, of course, excelled. But it could have just as easily gone the other way, was my next discovery, because I got one back that was fantastic, but it was the lower writer. It wasn't level 2. I think it was a level 3 writer. It was my favorite. And so my first thing that I suspect is that sometimes you're going to get awesome writers at 2 and 3, but maybe not always. And so maybe a level 5 writer is looking to pick up a job, and Dan and I talked about this. A level 5 writer might be looking to pick up a job and just can go down and pick up anything in their level or below. And so sometimes you may get lucky. And one of the cooler things is I was actually, through this process, able to pick out a few writers who did a great job. So now I can put them in my special little pool of writers and say, hey, I've got this, and I'd like these writers to handle it. So there's the other plus of doing some sample tests and getting a group of people and finding some writers that you can then use in your own little pool. So
Yeah,
that's kind of
for
fun.
something like, I mean, obviously for blogging and things like that, but also, if you're doing product descriptions or whatever else you might be doing, having someone or some small group of people that you've already kind of, seen their work and you like them, you're not necessarily going to get that individual, but you can order from, within that group, and that's one way to kind of, it's kind of like MTurk, right? At first, you're not going to necessarily get the best quality as the idiots on MTurk try to test out the new requester, but in the same way, right, you'll be able to find who's good and who's not, and it's actually easier to do it in TextBroker, looks like, than it is to do it in MTurk. It's not like a qualification group that we have to mess with.
Yeah, but I think there is like a 30% upcharge in order to request particular
There
work.
sure is. Yeah, so you'd go from 2.4 cents to 3.3 cents or something like that, potentially, but depending on what the purpose of the content is, that can be well worth it just to get something that you're not going to have to spend as much time editing or reviewing.
Sure. Okay.
And it absolutely was, and Dan's right. And I had that situation happen for me for some product descriptions that I also tested in these tests, and that was the really interesting part. I had a couple of people who just nailed it. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is a 3-star rating. And they were a student, and I said, oh my gosh, this is a 4-star rating, and they're a marketing professional. So you really don't always know, and so I do think it is worth it, and especially when you have things that you want to be featured content or really slick content, of knowing who you're going to give that to and having some confidence and some relationship with those people and through the interfaces.
And the other big thing with TextBroker, and they've got tutorials in there, they've got templates that you can use. Be very specific about what you want, and you'll get more specific things. If you're very vague about what you want, you'll get someone, right? Someone's attempt to claim your prize, even though it's not that great. But it's probably not that great just because you didn't really tell them what you wanted.
Right. Well, and you might even find one of the things I did do is I refined my template a couple of times, and so I tested it a few times. I wrote what I was hoping to achieve. And one person actually did exactly as I asked, and it was completely not what I wanted, but they did exactly what I asked. And so I think that's the other part of it, is getting better at asking the right questions and writing the better request. And when you're doing software, the same thing happens, right? You just say, I want this, this, and this to happen. Oh, wait, what if this happens? And so
yeah, the same thing we have with MTurk. They have pre-built templates for an article, a blog post, a product description. Those would be the starting point, because that's what people are going to be used to seeing.
Yep, and just be clear.
Indeed. Okay, well, let's go ahead and look at. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go screen share here, and we'll look at some of the examples that Michelle built, and then we'll talk about how to build stuff like that in ResultFlow. So let me see if I can make all of that magic happen.
Jazz hands.
Yeah, I know, right? Screenshot desktop. Start screen share. Woo! All of mirrors. And then I'm going to jump over to here. And so we should be looking at the Lorem Ipsum blog, right?
The famous Lorem Ipsum.
Yeah, right. Which is not actual Greek or Latin, but it sounds kind of like it might be. All right. And so for all of you, following at home, you can see that link, that Michelle posted. And so there's what she's done here. So let's click this first one, and she's got the brief, okay, which is what she told the writer to do, and then she has immediately following it, she has the actual result. Now, in many cases, and I don't think you chronicle this here, do you, Michelle? You went through a revision, right?
The level 3 one had a revision, and I think I put that in the title that there was a revision.
Yeah. Okay.
So this one and level 2 and level 5 didn't. I mean, level 2 and level 4 didn't have any revisions. This is just exactly as I got it. You can read the brief that I have there, but and I gave them all exactly the same brief.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's when you compare these, that's kind of illustrative in and of itself. Okay. But let's go take a look at how we interface with TextBroker in ResultFlow, and let's see if I can actually even
And while you're switching that over, one of the things that was interesting about this is, of course, when I wasn't using a filter to say, hey, if they wrote too much, don't give it to me, but a couple of people got really excited about what they were writing. They wrote 100 words more. Well, TextBroker caps that. So if they get excited and they write too much, or they just go on, it doesn't charge you beyond what you've ordered, which I thought was nice. And because every once in a while, you wouldn't want to cut a really great writer off because they had 3 more words to say, I think, which is why in your filters you give us some room when we're looking at abstracts on MTurk. You give us some room on either side, 10%, 15% on either side, to make sure that we get everything they needed to say.
Yeah, and by the way, as we dig into ResultFlow in particular, what you'll find is that I had the programmer turn off filtering, automated filtering, because I think it's inappropriate to the text broker service. But we'll talk more about that later. So we should see a title slide here.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is actually session 7. It should be session 6. So we're actually having session 8, which means Inner Circle's been pushed out a week. But let's dive into the content. So this is about feature content, specifically about using text broker for feature content. I mean, I think anybody can figure out that if you want feature content, you can actually go out and hire a writer, employ them part-time and stick them in as a member in your ResultFlow instance and move on from there. That's great, and some people are actually absolutely going to do that, and some people are doing it now. But for those of you who want more of an on-demand, more of a laissez-faire kind of a deal going on, you don't have to do that. You could rely upon text broker to do feature content. There's some pluses and minuses there, as we're finding out. There's a certain amount of tradecraft associated with text broker, just as there is with MTurk. But because of the closer relationship and the dialogue that you can create, that is really much harder to do within the MTurk environment. You can build, it's practical to build longer pieces of content with just one individual doing the writing.
And you can talk back to that individual easily with with text broker, whereas with MTurk, it's really not encouraged to try to communicate with.
Well, and we'll provide better resources for that, but I mean, it's just the nature of the micro task versus larger task. The assumption is it's going to be a much smaller thing, and you wouldn't want to be doing the dialogue. Certainly, the MTurker is not going to want it. And so, what we're going to do, and I'll walk you through this whole process. I mean, there's obviously the usual details of getting something like this set up, and so we'll go through those. We're going to create a test broker account, and then we're going to set the account to test mode and get the keys that you plug into ResultFlow, and then set up ResultFlow. Because like anything else, ResultFlow has to be connected to Test Broker. It's just like Text Broker rather, just like connecting your ResultFlow instance to your blog, right? There's this user ID and password is what it boils down to, right? In Text Broker, it's actually a budget ID and a password, and I'll show you that. Then we're going to create a simple order, quote unquote simple, and I'll explain what that means. And then we're going to look at some more advanced orders, and I haven't actually shared this with either Dan or Michelle yet, so they'll probably be both surprised, amazed, and critical all at the same time. And so the 2 different styles that you would most imagine using, styles of workflow that you imagine using with Text Broker. So the first idea is that you have this idea in your own brain, right? And you dump that as a writing assignment into Text Broker, and then the result of that, after reviewing it, possibly revising and accepting, right? Then it gets scheduled and it goes to your blog. That's obvious, right? You get an idea, you have someone write about it, boom, you're done. A slightly more advanced approach would be that you have this idea come up in your brain, and but it's you're a little bit more coherent, a little bit more kind of routine in these ideas, and so you say, hey, VA, research this idea. I want an article on this topic. And I will talk about the different kinds of posts you would create. So lists of resources, comparing and contrasting opinions within a marketplace, product reviews, comparisons, those are things. And so then you have a VA probably adorn your idea. So you have the basic idea, and then you have somebody add to it, and that ends up going into Text Broker, scheduling, and post. You can see this is obviously a little bit more leverage here if you can create structure about structure in your brain. That's hard, I know, right? But in a structured notion about the kind of things you're going to do, then you can have somebody can take that all the way to a text broker description. And let's make that real with an example. So first, let's look at the simple or the text broker workflow and how you feed text broker. Well, in the way that Michelle was using the interface, if you use a native interface to text broker, what you do is you log in, you create this order, you type a bunch of stuff, and you hit go, and that's the order. Okay, and that means if you have a whole bunch of similar things, like write a comparison of these two products, then you have write a comparison of these other two products, and write a comparison of these other two products. Well, this is getting a little bit kind of sad because a lot of that's boilerplate, right? Except the two product links. Well, gee, why don't we instead have an input document which is combined with a template to create the actual text broker work order, a brief, what they call a brief, right? And so when I say this is the brief, there was supposed to be an arrow there, which apparently didn't happen, but never mind that. I'll have to clean that slide up before I post it. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this input document, combine it with a template to create the brief, which goes to text broker, and that's going to create our output. So the simplest of briefs is what I'll call the identity template, and that is just take whatever I told you to do. And so on the input of the workflow, on the input of the text broker workflow, I can just write some arbitrary description like write me a simple song. Okay, maybe that gets bad garbage, but whatever, But so when I say $source doc as the template, right? This is a template. When I give that template to the text broker workflow, all it's going to do is take whatever was on the input and copy it to the output, which is of course what text broker sees. Text broker writes from that and gives us a document back, which is what we use. I know that was maybe a little confusing. I should have had some more arrows here. Well, we'll look at this in real life here in just a moment. And so that's a simple notion of I don't want any boilerplate. I just want to write the entire description, just like just like we find here. And so, and we'll use this as an example. So if I wrote that entire brief right there, that becomes the value of source doc in what I just showed. And then of course the text broker person returned the result. Okay, well that's nice, but it doesn't give us a whole lot of leverage over or our time, right? So we could do something a little better than that. Let's suppose that we took what Michelle was doing there, which was basically a product review, and so all I did here was rearrange her text a little bit, as you'll see. And so what I said is, please write an article, blah, 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 and based on that, add a summary about wanting to try this product as well, source doc. And so now what I can feed into the workflow, instead of having to feed in this entire piece of text, which is essentially what she had to write in order to create this result, all I really have to do is send in that URL, because the template composes the rest of it to create the resulting brief. And so let's stop there for a second and let people grok that you can actually, let's say that I wanted not just pink silicone oven gloves, which, I mean, I'm dying to have some of those, by the way. I just can't live without that. But let's say I want some blue and some black ones as well. The black because I'm in a goth, right? Well, so the template's the same, but I just give it three different input documents, and the input document is nothing more than the URL of what I want the text broker writer to write about. And so, does that make sense? I mean, it's kind of almost exactly like mturk. Not quite, but it's really, really close to the way we're using mturk, which is like not a mistake, by the way. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that makes sense to me. Of course, I was the one doing this, and one of the things, since you combine it all together, it ends up being better, in my opinion, presented to the writer, because the new format inside text broker if anyone's logged in there, and it's really interesting. I have 2 different logins to TextBroker with 2 completely different interfaces. But the new one asks all these questions, and you end up with this page-long brief. But I found that if you don't include everything in the summary of the brief, which is what we're doing here, some of the writers miss those other finer points, like what person is this in, and should I include links, and what format would you like? And they're like 7 questions on the TextBroker template. But it actually works out better to have it all in a summary here, and I got much better results when I summarized it instead of trying to answer all those questions down below.
That is interesting, and I wonder if that's a kind of a new interface at TextBroker, and so the writers themselves are not used to it. Is that maybe the case?
I bet it is. I bet it is.
Interesting. Well, we'll see how they evolve that. The API itself doesn't, incorporate those separate fields. It's all just, as you say, the summary. So, and so this is really what we're talking about here. If you were doing a quote unquote product review, which is what Michelle was doing here. I mean, this is just a slight change to in a way of doing the same thing, to make it a little bit more scalable. So we can have this one rule running, and we can just feed URLs into it. So you can imagine if you can pull out, I don't know, maybe you can use a PLA if you reformat it right, or something like that. If you can get a list of your product URLs done in RSS, then boom, you could feed that into this workflow and turn out these reviews for all of them. Maybe that's a little bit much. Maybe don't do that. But anyway.
Screaming frog. Well, product export, or even something like a screaming frog, where you're just
you just got to be able to turn. Yeah, you got to be able to turn that into either turn that into an RSS feed to do it completely automatically, or literally just drop those on a case-by-case basis into documents. So you just do a create document and drop it into that workflow folder, right? And this, I mean, it's assumed that you're not to do 1,000 of these. I mean, if you are, then wow, you've got a lot of money and you should be giving that to me instead. But this is a way of making this at least a lot easier to do because it's templated. Yeah. So that's a kind of the next one. I mean, obviously this one's the simple case where you're going to write everything. And this may be like, contrast these 2 bands. I don't know, whatever, right? It's going to be something really, truly ad hoc and one-off. This is going to be something where that you're going to be doing quite a few of them. And then, how about a resource list? This is all the rage right on the interwebs. And so here's one, write a 600 of annotated resources. The title of your resulting document and the resources to include are listed below. And so you'll notice I put that all the way down here at the end. Yeah, you could argue for putting them up here in the middle or whatever, right? Begin your document with a title given below and a short introduction, then provide a paragraph for each resource listed below. Now, admittedly, this maybe is not the best description. As I learned this lesson the hard way over on MTurk, is to exactly how to be extraordinarily specific so that people really understand what you're saying, and both Dan and Michelle have said that about TextBroker as well. So I'm not saying that this is the ending, that this is the best template in the world. It's at least something to start from. Now, how would you get the resource list? Well, I would use that Google thing that all the kids are using. And so, literally, if you wanted to do something like, what are the best sites for paleo recipes? Well, why don't you go search that and kind of poke around and say, yeah, this one looks good, and that one looks pretty good, and this one looks like spam. Let's skip it, and find 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 of those, and copy those URLs into a document and feed it into this workflow template, and have a writer use that as their research sources to write that full resource list. Yes, you can do this other ways. You could even, I think, that as time goes on, we'll find ways to make MTurkers do this for us, one resource at a time. But for right now, this should be a very straightforward way to get these kind of resource lists or bulleted lists of favored sources. Okay, well, resource list, that's good. Oh, what about product comparisons? So let's say we're selling treadmills, let's suppose, And so what we want to do is we want to have two different products on our website and compare this NordTrack treadmill against this, I don't know, other treadmill, whatever. That's the only name I can come up with. The relative features and benefits of these two products, boom, boom. And so what we're going to feed in as a source document is literally two product URLs. Target audience is, and yada, yada, yada. Okay, there we go. And of course, obviously, I just made that stuff up. So there, anytime you want some content that's, and then you probably put that same content maybe on both product pages, or maybe it's listed somewhere on the product page at the bottom. Maybe you can, fake it as a product review. I'm not saying that you should, but I'm just saying that you could. And so this is, again, a scalable way to get that kind of content done, where you don't have to write the whole thing over again. All right. Now, I know some of you are saying, oh, I want that text. I want to copy and paste that. Yes, I'm going to give you that. Just chill out, okay? You can copy and paste this. And by the way, okay, disclosure, none of this has been tested, okay? This is just a really great idea. So just saying.
I mean, if I remember back to the good old days of when I first started this internet kids thing, everything's a test, and that's the one thing that hasn't changed, right? Everything continues to be a test. What works for you may not work for someone else, but go and try it out for yourself and then make adjustments and make it better.
And some of this I am in the midst of testing, right? So fitliving.net will be a 100% fully disclosed case study that you'll all get access to, and it's about health, nutrition, supplementation. Okay, and so a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here, I mean, I already have in play some of this content. Okay. So as product comparisons, and that's really good when you have both products. So I sell both product A and product B, and I want to show what the relative features and merits and benefits are between the two, right? Okay, that's cool. But what if I wanted people to buy one versus another one? Aha! And this is what I'm calling the directed product comparison, since bias sounded sort of evil. And this is very similar, Michelle, to what you did, where you said, I want your 3 favorite kitchen gadgets, plus I want to try this other one, right? Well, this is kind of the same thing, except what I'm saying is like, well, this one versus this one, but make sure that they really want to choose the other one. And so, one of them, rather. So, write a comparison of relative features and benefits while communicating a strong preference for the first one. And so, give them 2 and make sure that they're trying to promote the first one. Now, how well will that work? I don't know. The marketing gene is apparently in short supply. We'll see. But there's probably more information that has to be presented here to really get good results, frankly. But it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Your article must compare and contrast the pros and cons of each product for this target market while making the first product appear to be the best choice. And then I give them some, and this is probably not enough information here, who the target market is, but then the target audience prefers better quality over lower price. We probably have to add more there, right, in order for them to really do some good writing. But you can see this is the direction to go, right, where you can now start thinking about what's the boilerplate, what are the description of your target audience and what they're interested in, and what are the variable portions of the writing task. And that's the reason, if you go all the way back to the structure of the text broker workflow, why the hell is that even there? That's in order to be able to boilerplate portions of the task. That's the whole notion. We don't need this. I mean, the reality is, if you look at the raw text broker interface, it doesn't have a template. It has a brief and it has an output. What we're adding here is the ability to template our brief. Template portions of our brief. Okay, so that's our directed product comparison. All right. So let's go ahead and go live into ResultFlow. And you will, most of you on this call will not see this interface live because there's one additional change I'm making. Well, I'm not making it. There's a person in Russia staying up until midnight to make it.
Your
But
hooligans.
yeah, right. So, but let me show you, you know, how kind of this works out, so that you can, you know, get a sense of it, and you'll have it, you know, sometime by, certainly by tomorrow, by the time all the machines are updated. Some of you have it now. Some of you have a version of it right now, but you know, don't sweat it, because you will have to think through a little bit, and there's some stuff for you to do even before going online. Let's see. Let's go ahead and start at Text Broker, and create the interface. Like, what's today? What does that mean? It's winter? That means it's winter. Wow. Okay. Cool. Let's see. So textbroker.com. This is about, you know, creating your account, setting things up, and so I'll walk you through this, because it's not as bad as MTurk. Okay, let me say that. However, it's not a zero step either. You do need to, you know, create an account and do a couple little tricky things. So let's walk through that, so that you've got that in hand. And so free client registration. Okay, well, let's do that. That seems like a great thing to do. Waiting for the browser to load, because, oh my God, the Hangout takes up almost all available bandwidth. I think I have more than Dan, but it's not as much as I'm accustomed to. I'm working from a remote location. All right, so you create. So we're going to do Leslie at.
It does make you appreciate the locations that you do have sometimes. I had to work remotely yesterday, and I'm like, why isn't this going faster?
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. And so what am I going to do here?
By the way, Leslie, this is how you make a password checker. I love their password checker there. Tell me what's wrong as I'm doing it, and let me have a chance to fix it, instead of getting me to another page and saying your password didn't qualify. Please go back.
Yeah, that's a rat in the maze version. Yeah, right, exactly. Oh, and unfortunately now I have to go confirm the damn account. Oh shit, and which means I have yet another, which is a Google login, which probably blows everything up.
Do you want to put it in? You want to put it in Slack from me on my channel? I'll go log in and approve it for you. If not, okay.
Because I don't know my Gmail password. So you know what I'll do is, because that's what LastPass is for. Let's do this. I already have another one I can just log into. It's already set up, which is LeslieRhodey.com. There we go. This one. Oops. Oh, hang on a second. Start again.
Hello. Try again. Try again.
That's not the login screen.
It's not. That's the problem. That was the create account screen. Sorry. Yeah.
All the little nuances. So funny like that.
Do you ever, when you're typing your own name, say, wow, that's kind of like a chick's name, Leslie?
Yeah, I get that a lot. But then I like
There you
chicks,
go.
so it's okay.
Log in. We can stop.
All right. Yeah, we can. Okay, so now once you're in here, there's like, this is kind of dizzying, and so here's what you have to do next. And so you go to Order Administration and API, and then pretend that's not here, because you're going to create one like it. So I'll go ahead and delete it and create a new one. Okay, delete. Go. There we go. So, yes, thank you. There's a lot there. Okay, so you're going to get something like this, you know. And so now what you want to do is you want to create a new budget. It's kind of weird. Now, so in their interface, you have the notion of being able to divide up between different budgets. We did not implement it in ResultFlow. So you're going to have one budget, and I'll show you where you plug that into your ResultFlow instance. Okay, but so what's my budget name? Oh, gee, I don't know. Let's say budget 1. That's catchy. Leslie Rohde. It's good enough. And now this is a different password. I know, right? Each budget has a different password. You have an account password and you have a budget password. It's very weird. So I'm going to call this something, and I forget, something dash secret. Let me see if that works. Budget unlimited. Callback URL. Ignore that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it in test mode. Then we're going to create new budget. Okay. So now we can go look at that. Let's see what it says. Okay, it says its name's budget1. Has an email. There's a password, which we can go show password. Now I type in my account password, and it'll show me what my budget password is, which is something dash secret. Don't get too excited. It is, after all, in test mode, right? And so, and I'll delete that before you can see it anyway. And so there we are in test mode. There we go. And so now this stuff right here is how ResultFlow connects to TextBroker. So that's the key. So let's jump over into ResultFlow. And just like mTurk, you stuff that stuff into your profile. So my profile, and I go down here, and I probably shouldn't have shown everyone my secret key. Now, great, I have to go change that. That's fantastic. So now edit profile.
Oopsie.
Yeah, oops. I hate it when that happens. And so the TextBroker API key, I go jump over to here and get that. So that's the budget key. Okay, we drop it in there. And we have this password, which is something not very secret. Ah, come on. There we go. And we drop it right there, and we save changes. Okay. All right, that's it. Now my ResultFlow instance is connected to my TextBroker budget, if you will. Okay. That's the entirety of the setup between those two pieces of software. That's it. At this point, you can actually technically, close TextBroker. You don't really need it at this point. Now, for production jobs, okay, for that, those things will appear in a list over in TextBroker, and I invite you to wander around the TextBroker API. It's fortunately a little better than mTurk. Just saying. Okay. And so, but for the test mode, there's not much there. In fact, there's almost nothing. So things that you do in test mode, they are not going to show up over there. So don't even try to go looking for them. Let's go ahead and create a persona here to do let's see, do TB testing. Okay. And you don't have to do it in a different persona. I just do that. So anyway.
Does that require you to be poked by 4 pins on your arm, the TB test?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the TB test, yes. TB is bad. Eventually, the page will load. And now, in terms of templates, let's start there. I have not bothered to create TextBroker templates for you yet. I'm thinking about what makes sense. There's the only one that absolutely makes sense. I'll call it the identity template. All right. And so let's create one named that. And so we'll call it the TextBroker identity. And all that means is it's just going to copy the input to the output, right? And so literally this is the entire template. $, open brace, source doc, close brace. That's it. And I'll get that loaded. I mean, I'm just not sure the TextBroker identity means the same thing to everybody else it does to me. It sounds maybe a little bit too abstract and science custom computer sciencey, but there's a reason I've held off on doing something about it. But I'm open to suggestions about what to call that. And so now we need an input, and we need an output. And on the input, we're going to run our text broker workflow. But before we do that, just like mturk, oh, look, there's a new menu item. This is where you create the definition, create what's called an order. Right? So we create an order, and this is where we bind up these different things. So we're going to call this one general purpose writing. And the template we're going to use is the broker identity. And now they want you to, and I'm not sure, Michelle, do you understand this any better than I do? Because it wasn't clear to me. It didn't seem like they gave any direction about this. But
yeah, I think it's for my impression is that it is for the writers who maybe you have writers who specialize in horoscopes or television, and so, or you get a higher classification of your article and what category. For me, I think I ended up in hobbies instead of shopping because I felt like cooking was more of a hobby than shopping. You know, I wasn't just trying to get a retail aspect of it, and so I really think that's my impression of the categories, but it does not really tell you. It just says pick one.
Yeah,
red or blue.
Yeah, I know, and like fitness isn't on the list, so it's like, okay, so what do if I want to write about, writing about fitness?
Is there health?
I mean, there's health and there's sports. So it's like, okay, well, let's use health, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then I want 500, 800 words. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, the classification is that level of worker, and your cost escalates. And I think, Dan, didn't you decide that 5 was just prohibitive? But I think you were getting really good results at 3 and 4, right?
Not exactly. But you base 5 stars, I think you're paying 3 times what you'd pay to get 4 stars. And based on the limited experience that we have, I'm willing to bet that if I just buy 3 versions of the same thing at 4 stars, I'll probably get 1 or 2 that are 5 stars. But it really depends on what you want, and I really wouldn't want to, invest heavily in long-form 5-star content unless I was ordering from somebody that already had an idea that they can do some work. So I just think that the price difference, I've got to see a performance difference to justify that, and that's really going to be about writers that I've gotten short stuff from before that I'll want to later hire to do longer stuff, most likely.
Gotcha. And then I don't have any opinion about working time. You know, what this says is, and this copied straight out of TextBroker, amount of time that authors have to write once they accept. And it's not a final delivery time. And so what did you specify on your jobs for this, Michelle?
I specified 3 days. But it had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that I was going to be it was Thursday night, and I wasn't going to be back to look at it until Monday anyway, and I didn't want it to auto approve without me seeing it.
Gotcha.
So right. The same kind of thought process we put when we're putting together the mturk stuff.
Yep. Right. Exactly right. And so, pick whatever makes sense to you there, based on your workflow. All right. So once you
I was going to say the other thing too is if you're literally building a flow, right, and you're trying to regularly create this content for whatever reason, think about that as part of your process. You know, if you need everything tomorrow, then that may or may not be a flow, right? And then you also may cut off people who might be great writers, but they can't take it, or I don't know. I'm just thinking that way. I'd like having a little bit of space between what I'm doing for this kind of content, particularly, because I'm spending 10 times as much money on this as I would. That was one of the questions: is would you use this to do your abstracts? Well, it depends. But you're going to pay $3, right, for a lower writer to do 200 words, whereas you're paying 30 cents on mturk. So it really depends on what your budget is and what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
And build processes.
Yeah, abstracts, I would be more inclined to get 5 done and then have a VA spend 5 minutes picking the best, and you still spend less money.
Right.
But yeah. All right. So once you have this, so now you have the text broker order. So you hit save. Did I not hit save? Did I hit cancel? Or was that a...
I wasn't watching as closely as I should have, perhaps.
Apparently neither was I, and now it's taking like forever to reload the page. Oh, there it is. Okay. Wow, that was weird. Okay. And so, I mean, you can go back in and change it, obviously, right? Or not, maybe not so obviously, but there it is. Okay. I'm actually hitting cancel this time. All right. So now let's go over here and create the workflow. So we're going to do it on this input. So we're going to copy input to output. That's pretty obvious. Workflow rule. And then please select. So this is documents in the folder. And you'll find this as soon as it goes live for you. It's under the writing category. It says text broker. And you know, this should be pretty familiar to most people. Again, it's very similar to mTurk conceptually, right? mTurk TW. And so we want to copy to the output as the target folder. We only have the one text broker order template assigned, and I'm the reviewer for it. And so we create workflow rule. Now, because this is a quote-unquote simple, right? I have to copy anything I put in the input is going to be unmodified, right? And all I'm doing is taking source doc and making that the writing brief. And so, okay, well, let's just take Michelle's. Here we go. So I take that writing brief, and I go in here to input, and I say create contact plain text. It could be HTML if you want. I don't care. And you say, we'll call it, you know, ask one. Doesn't matter what it is. Bam. And so, I'm having, it's not refreshing. Is it a Safari issue? No. It's not showing me. That's the second time that's happened. Loading, loading, loading. Wow, this is like...
It's taking a minute.
You did spray for gremlins this morning, didn't you, Leslie?
Right.
Wow, I mean,
Didn't feed them after
really
dark.
great internet. There we go. Yeah, I see. I don't know if that's a... I wonder if that's a timeout problem. What's going on? Anyway, so there's our, you know, the writing task I just submitted, and of course there's nothing in the output folder yet because it hasn't come back from text broker. Now, let's talk about the round trip from ResultFlow to text broker. Yeah, I guess I should have created a diagram for this, but so from ResultFlow, once you create this, you know, so we've got this rule, and so when you drop something into input, then it applies a workflow to that item. Immediately it goes and gets submitted to text broker. Now there's some undefined delays out on text broker, and then the back-end systems that support ResultFlow do polling of that interface, and we're going to set that to something like 2 hours, just because to expect text broker to return something in less than 2 hours is probably ridiculous. Right now, I have it set to, I think, 2 minutes, just so I could be demonstrating this in much closer to real time. And so in a couple of minutes, we should find a result come back, which you'll be very impressed with, because the test mode does some great writing. That's my tricking voice. But once that comes back, then what will happen is you'll get the review task. Right now, there's no task because it hasn't come back from text broker. Okay, so when you drop something in here in your input folder, nothing's going to happen on output. Nothing's going to happen on your task dashboard. That's normal. That's because we sent it off to text broker and are waiting for things to happen over there. Again, very similar to the mTurk TW workflow, right? Because when you submit something to mTurk, you don't expect it to have, get something back instantaneously, and so there's no the review task does not get assigned to you. And let's see, if I wasted 2 minutes, then we should actually get something back. While we're waiting for that to come back, let's look at how we would implement some of the more advanced templates. So let's go back over into here, into templates, and we say create template, and now we're going to call this abbreviate it, TB product review. And for this, let me go grab from I'll just copy it out of here. Actually, I'll do, yeah, okay, let's do product review. All right, there we go. I'm just going to copy that, paste it into here. And that's looking pretty ugly. Whoops, oh, I didn't copy correctly. Copy and paste does not work from PowerPoint or PDF. Are you kidding me? Right there. Wow, that was even worse.
You said you wanted it to be ugly, so there you go. You got it.
Wow. Okay, copy and paste out of a PDF does not work worth hell. Okay. Well, okay, so you get the idea. Yeah, you might want to clean that up a bit.
Yeah.
So once we, assuming it probably doesn't like that at all. Node ref does not contain / Oh yeah. Okay, never mind. This is terrible. Wow. Okay, I should have left those in some sort of text form where I can get to them. So we're gonna have stuff, and then we're gonna have source doc, and then we're gonna have stuff.
More stuff.
More stuff. Yeah, we'll call it more stuff, just to be clear. All right. So that's what our template's gonna look like. Now the what? Oh, do I have to title it? Surely not.
Signs point to yes.
No, it does not contain /. Okay, what am I missing here? Wow, I need to start over.
You're having node ref problems there, pal.
Yeah, why?
I hate it when my ref has node problems. Or the other way around.
I bet that doesn't work either. I win. What did I get?
Create. Okay, this is really ridiculous. Text. A test. Text. Well, certainly I'm chewing up the 2 minutes, which is really kind of sad. But
you're doing a nice job there, Leslie.
Product review, and then things here, and then oops. How did I get off on this? Source doc. Obviously, I'm gonna have to look into this. Look what the heck's going on there. All right, I'll get back to you on that. I have no idea what the heck is going on, and why I could create one moments ago and I cannot now. Jesus, I hate computers. All right, so we'll look into that. And sure enough, we don't have we don't have anything back from TextBroker either. So yeah, we're looking at a clean sweep today. That's awesome. That's really awesome.
While you're looking at that, Leslie, I'd like to share something that I've come across, and maybe these other guys do, because I've discovered that my VA can't read my mind.
Really? Well,
I know, fire her. But so one of the things that I am doing, and I noticed when I am creating some of the venues and the workflows, and I'm trying to help you kill some time here, is I'm kind of saying what they do. So if I put it in a scheduler folder, I say scheduler drops to so-and-so category every so many hours or every so many days. And so I actually make that part of my description now. And that seems to be helpful for the VA to understand what's going to happen once they hit approve. And then they have some sense of, as they are double checking to make sure everything's working, what should have happened, instead of it just going out into the ethers.
Okay. Let's see, in the context of this,
the output folder might say, instead of just output, say posting to blog.
Yes, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think most of the people using ResultFlow at this point are doing something like that.
Yeah.
You know, finished abstracts ready to post, or scheduled to the blog or something like that. And that's a much better way to do it than what I'm doing here, just for testing purposes.
And when it's funny when it's just you understand what you're doing, but they're like, well, what actually happens when this goes into this thing called approved? That's a great question. I should tell you that. You should know this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the person that's actually approving it should. Yeah. You're right. Absolutely right. And in fact, we've already gotten a request about this in terms of like the naming of the mturk hit definition internally versus externally, right? So what is the Turker C versus what do you call it internally?
Right.
You might want to call it, low quality writing, but that's not how you want to call it on mturk, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, just saying. Anyway.
People who write on the cheap.
Yeah, right. All right, so here we go. So it came back. So that was a little bit longer than 2 minutes, maybe. And so this is what happens when text broker has submitted it back to you. So presumably they've written something really pithy and extremely high quality, and that's as good as it gets in the test mode. Okay. And you see, it's great. It's Latin-ish, right? And so now, what do you do with that? All right. So now, pay no attention to the details of this screen because it will change. Instead of a review message here that's been templated, ixnay on that. We're not doing it that way. My notion is that you would have, call it canned responses. That turns out to be just a horrible idea. Just was not working at all. I mean, the notion is that you would have a review message, which you then edited, and that got sent to text broker. That turned out to be an incredible waste of time. So instead, when you click the revise button, you're going to get a pop-up, and it's just not rolled out into production right now because it's in final test. So by sometime tonight, all of the icky bits there will be finalized. The one thing I will note that's kind of tedious about text broker is that your revision comment has to be 50 or more words. And so you can't just say, dude, this is crap, fix it. Now, Michelle, I think you said that yours were on the order of 80 words typically, right?
Right.
And so apparently that's not a real problem. But that's just be aware of that they want a revision comment that is of a certain minimum length.
And especially if you use your polite Miss Manners voice, like, thank you for taking a stab at this. I really appreciate it. I need you to please take a look at. And now you've got like 30 words right there. So the crap that you wrote and fix it.
Yeah, it's like I know it's a great task for someone with your low. Anyway, yeah, whoops, though, let's edit that. But yeah, so it's probably in practical terms maybe not not hard to hit 50 words. Just bear in mind that requirement is there. All right.
I wonder if it would count dashes. Space.
That's a good question. I mean, we're not, but I don't know what their definition of word is. I know it's maybe anything white space delimited. So yeah, dash. Space dash space dash could maybe you get credit for 3 there. I don't know, but yeah, maybe you could test that for us.
Sure, I'd love to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always good to test and see how little you can do.
Absolutely. And so I'm not going to try to revise this right now because that'll work a little bit differently by the time you see this tonight or next or tomorrow. So I'm just going to hit accept, and of course it doesn't work because everything else is not working today. Thanks, that's really great. And no doubt that's the same problem I'm having with the other piece that's not working. So my bad. That's what I get for using my instance instead of one that's actually production. Okay, fine. So if you accept, that's great. Now, again, there's a thing about text broker which is a little bit weird, and so just bear this in mind. Let's see if I can go ahead and hit revise. Let's see if that works. I don't think it will because it doesn't meet the length requirements, so never mind. So you can't reject here. You have to give them at least 2 chances. And so on this first one, I can accept it or I can ask them to revise it. When it comes if I send them a revision, if I tell them revise this, and I tell them why, so I give them 50 words about why they need to revise it or how. Right? When it comes back, there will be a third button here, which is reject. And so if I give them their second chance, and I just, it's just not going to work. We're just not on the same page. I can hit reject, and we're done. I can hit revise again and continue that process, or I can hit accept. But what I can't do is on their first attempt, I can't hit reject. So just bear that in mind, that you have to give them at least one more try. So you can take the original, you do revise, if you still don't like it and you think that there's no point going on, hit reject. And I guess, Michelle, you didn't ever do that, did you? You didn't actually do a reject?
I did not reject because I'm kind of the mindset if they got really close and it's one more word, I just need to get this done. And so it's about managing my time properly too. So I can nitpick over something that cost me $3 and spend 15 of my own dollar hours to fix it. But, so I really try to balance the idea that this is going to be a tool for me to make my crap go faster. And so I look for ways to make things go faster and not ways to let it slow me down.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough. So that's what I have right now, and I apologize that I'm gonna have to go figure out what's wrong with my instance. This is not the one I used to test in. Unfortunately, this was the one that my feeds and other stuff was in, and so obviously I screwed something up in updating it. So I'll have to get back to you about that later this afternoon when everything rolls out. But let's open up for questions, at least in terms of how to use TextBroker, and then we'll kind of close with additional questions too. I know there's some other things that people are talking about. There's some changes that people want on the delay workflow. I'm cognizant of that. Those are slated. I think we can probably actually have those by the weekend, and they're dealing with the actual date on documents and what happens there. Let's go. Let's see. What is? Let me see. Where are we on questions? Like you say. Oh, abstracts. Okay, it was Catherine was asking about that.
Yes, Catherine Coles has that, and then Krista McKinnon has a question.
Is this plain text method of adding the writing text, also a way we can add in links from sources like? I mentioned we had some recipes to discuss on this. Sure. So, for example, let's say that instead of doing a simple writing task, like we were doing, where the input document has to be the entire brief, right? Instead, let's say we were doing one of like a product review, right? Then instead, what we would do is we would just type into this. We would let her type into, let's see, like view 1, and we type in HTTP, mysite.com product 1, and HTTP : / mysite. Product 2, and bang. Now we've created that task, and it didn't refresh again. That's all that needs to go in there for this other. Let's see, for that one. Well, or for that one, as far as that goes, right? The only thing that needs to go into the source doc is going to be those 2 links. So it can, you can stick anything into a workflow using just create content rather. Yeah. Is this plain text adding the writing task and input folder also a way we can add in links from sources like for mturk? Now let me think about what you actually mean there. No, that's not quite right.
If I understand what you're trying to do, I wouldn't want to do it that way anyway.
Well, yeah, but you could do it. It's just you're right. I mean, you'd want to use a bookmarking tool like iKnowReader or something like that, right?
Well, so for example, what I'm doing, once we get done here, I'll finish up this video I'm working on, which shows a number of different kind of workflows. And so the kind of the lazy thought leader workflow that I use is I find cool stuff and then I save it to Pocket. And Pocket is one of those read later apps, but it also has an RSS feed out. And so what I've got is certain tags that if I apply a tag like PPC to it, then there's an RSS feed for things with that tag that goes into ResultFlow. And so if I find something on BuzzSumo or Facebook or wherever, whether it's on my phone, my iPad, or my computer on the desktop, I can just save it to Pocket, tag it however I want to, and then the workflow will start based off that new item appearing in my feed. And so you can find stuff on the web, and you can manually copy, paste, and create documents probably some kind of weird way in ResultFlow. But in general, I think the way that you want to approach this in terms of that kind of stuff is when it's an input, you don't want to have to go log into ResultFlow to do that. You'd rather have something where you just push a button and bam, it's done. So like to add something to Pocket with that tag on my phone, it's just like 4 taps and it's done. And then I don't have to think about it anymore because the tweet's going to go out.
Exactly, and I agree. I mean, you should treat ResultFlow.
And same thing, right? I could fork that out and have an abstract written. I could fork that out and have tell somebody on TextBroker to write me a similar article.
Yeah, exactly. And control that all by, by tags that create.
Yes, exactly. The tag is essentially the thing that starts a workflow, and so if I put multiple tags on it, I can even start multiple workflows with it.
Exactly right. Yeah,
I'm lazy. I don't want to log into ResultFlow after I've already got stuff set up. I mean,
well, yeah, that's right.
Workers doing that if somebody's going to do that, but not me.
Exactly. And then that would be the normal case. I mean, the quote unquote owner, so the people on this call, you should set stuff up, and yes, there'll be processes that monitor it, but in terms of like creating content in ResultFlow, that's more for like testing and
to
startup.
Get a single article abstracted, I'm not going to log into ResultFlow.
No, it just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Just push a button, tag it, and ba-da-dum. And so that's what with iKnowReader, if you're reading stuff in the RSS reader, you can just push the star or put a tag on it. But for stuff that you've kind of found in the wild, and like BuzzSumo, for example, Pocket is great because there's any browser you can stick a Pocket bookmarklet in. The Pocket app on iOS has a share extension, so you can literally add it to the share menu everywhere except the Facebook app, which doesn't work like an iOS app, but you can open stuff in Safari from that. And so it's a very simple, easy one to use. It's free, and the RSS doesn't come with an upcharge where you have to pay extra to get RSS out of it.
So this is the Lazy Marketer's Digital Swiss Army Knife for content creation.
This is, yes, the Lazy Thought Leadershipper. I'm curating.
Curating. There you go.
And thought leadershiping.
Yeah. And Evernote would be the other way, right? I mean, Evernote's got an RSS.
Yeah, Evernote actually doesn't have RSS out anymore.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, shit. Well,
they got rid of that. But if you have Zapier, you can actually have Zapier watch Evernote and make an RSS feed out of it for you. And that's, depending on how much chewing gum and wire you like in your life, that may or may not be something you'd want to do. But if you're already using Evernote for everything, I'd put a Zapier Zap on it and get an RSS feed out of it rather than change what I used.
And then again, you can use tags for that, right? So
yeah,
is that right? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. That might be because I use like Evernote instead of bookmarks. So yeah.
So well, you use Evernote for like everything. So
pretty much.
There's that.
Yeah. There's that. So okay. All right. So apparently I have something didn't happen quite right with the rollout to this instance. So I have to check that, see what went wrong there. And like I said, there's an update to that user interface that I showed you about how the review comment gets done, or how the revision comment gets done. And that will be different. And I'll show you a screenshot of that when this rolls out. This what I'd encourage you to do at this point, though, in terms of TextBroker, is go if you want to use TextBroker. Well, the two things you've got is you've got some examples that Michelle put together, and the other thing is you go out and create your account. Go ahead and put it in test mode. Now you can, let's see, where is it? Did I close the window? Seriously? I guess I did. It's easy to take, once you've created that budget, take it out of test mode, and now suddenly it's live. Okay. And so just look at that. If you want to use this, we've got very little mileage with it, frankly, and I would say that I'm the same. I mean, it's longer form content that we're doing right now with MTurk. Could we get long form content like this done with MTurk? I believe so eventually, but it's going to require a lot more, like kind of a lot more work on the process, on the system for doing that than what we have to do with Text Broker. That's the reason I still think right now, if you want to do an 800-word article, Text Broker is still the easy button for doing that. So I don't know, Dan, if you agree with that or not, but it seems to me like what's available in the marketplace, that's pretty much the one.
Yeah, doing stuff like that with MTurk is it's a bigger job than what MTurk is built for, and that doesn't mean we couldn't, figure out ways to string stuff together, and eventually we will, when we're doing our inner circle stuff and all that. But I think right now this is the easy button for long form content, like by far.
It's so beautiful. I mean, I remember the days of me sending spreadsheets of the links of the pages that I needed my writers to write, and I didn't even know Text Broker existed. If it did, they may have been using Text Broker. I had no idea. I just needed to know it needed to go out and it needed to come back, and that's and so managing this, having this semi-automated is fantastic. We did have one other question in ResultFlow Insiders on Slack.
Oh.
That was, and it was to Dan or myself, but it says, is there a process that you use to research the idea you have for some dog whistle attractive content before submitting to the processor? Leslie mentions, or straight to Text Broker. Do you look at your analytics of the abstracts, commentaries, articles as the input to the process? I know what I do, but Dan, Leslie, you guys have some thoughts on this? Or shall I?
Well, guys, what I'm doing personally is really, it's more of a curation process. So I'm more interested in stuff that I'm finding on the web. So I'm probably not the best use case for anything, but just getting stuff abstracted through MTurk, through the sort of the normal way that we do it. But this thing I'm doing with Pocket is really kind of my workflow.
Well, and for me, I'm doing it from I'm actually working on an e-commerce test case, and so I think of it the same way we think about any other kind of content that we're building, in that what does my audience care about? So what kind of content do I want my audience to have? What kind of questions are they asking? So I do have a little bit of keyword research in there, but not a lot, because I've been in this industry for 10 or 12 years, and so I kind of know what a lot of the hot buttons are. But then I also leverage the BuzzSumo and those kind of things where you're looking at things that are important and things that have been shared, and figure out how I can twist those ideas and get some content written. So it really just depends on the specific goal of each task. So some tasks are about setting yourself as an authority, like Dan's doing. Some tasks are about reaching out and making sure your customers have data they're looking for when they come to your site. It actually makes sense to them. So those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and some of what I was talking about with the do a summary. What did I call it? Summarize, or did I even show that one? That's it's kind of the beginnings of what people call the skyscraper technique, where you find something that's got good traction in terms of links or traffic, and you try to do something just better.
Right.
Product resource list. Well, resource list is sort of kind of close, but you just same for that. What people teach is you go out, you find something. Oh, that's getting a lot of traction in my market, and so then you go do a search at Google, for example. What are the origins of the paleo diet, or what foods are in the paleo diet and what foods are not in the paleo diet, or questions like that you would build content around if you want to talk about diets. Okay, and so you just look what other people are saying about it. You take those resources, you stick that into the boilerplate that says this is going to be a list of resources, or this is going to be a list of a comparison, compare and contrast these different opinions. What are people saying about this? Summarize the different viewpoints, right? So you could have this boilerplate piece about that, and then plug into it different, different variable elements. And the variable elements would be like literally a title and a set of URLs. And the title would be what is the where did the paleo diet begin, or what are the origins of the paleo diet? Use these resources to answer the question. Or what foods are in the paleo diet, what foods are not in the paleo diet. You can ask a whole bunch of different questions and give resources that you called, or someone that you works for you called, and that's what you give over to something like TextBroker.
So we don't actually know the name of the Stone Age chef that
we do not. It's lost in antiquity, in the Stone Age.
Oh, his
Whatever.
name's not Pal EO?
No, I think his name's EO, and he was a pal of. Anyway, okay. And so, so those are, you just have to kind of think about what, I mean, just structuring an idea. Now, you wouldn't go to that much work if you ever only want to do one article like that. But let's face it, if you can template something like that to the extent where you're putting some structure around the task, and there's a whole bunch of pieces of writing like that you'd like to do, then that's like fantastic. Now you divide up the writing task and the research task and the piece before that, which is the kind of chunk that you want. It's like the origin of the paleo diet, whether the paleo diet's good or bad, the paleo diet versus the Mediterranean diet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all you do is the research. You define, three steps. You define what you want it written about. Then you have somebody do the research and somebody else do the writing. And those really are entirely separate skill sets.
Right.
So anyway, that's
I think too, I want to add on to that just a tiny bit, because it doesn't have to be finite. It doesn't have to be a one and done article on where did paleo get started, right? Because I was reading, I think it's on the Coffee Butter Guy. He has 7 different blog posts on his website about coffee and butter and the recipe, or whatever the number is. It wasn't just, oh, this is my recipe. It was, here's the recipe and here are some things around the recipe. Here's the recipe and here are how other people are trying it and they're screwing up. Here's the recipe. And so it doesn't have to be, I'm doing a whole lot of work to create this one idea. But I think we don't want to limit ourselves on that either, too. So we don't have to think we're putting a whole lot of research into making this one article, because you could just repurpose that in lots of ways, too. And I know this is sort of off of ResultFlow, but it is about letting ResultFlow sort of take over and make things so much more automated than they used to be. Can you tell I'm happy about this, Leslie? It's just so nice.
Yeah, I can see that. Yes, frankly. Yes, except for that bug that I have to fix in your instance. We don't. Okay.
That's easy. Yeah. That's easy. That's.
Yeah.
It's just a bug. Yeah, good. Call Grace Hopper. She can help you with that.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so for all of you, I mean, actually, I have to go check and see who's got the update and who's not. Most of you have not gotten the update yet, because I was holding off until the change I want about the revision comments. And so that will happen overnight. Tonight. It takes a long time to update 70 instances, and so you'll get that sometime, tomorrow morning, possibly even as late as mid-morning for some of you. As soon as you see 4.2, right? If your login dashboard shows 4.2, that's the new release, and so you should see TextBroker in your writing dropdown. Now I know that I need to also give everybody the text for this, and apparently I need to give it to you in some way that you can copy and paste from, because PDF isn't it? Who knew? All right, so I'll make sure that happens. Those probably, I may actually just put those as attachments on the update feed or on the update blog or something like that. I'll have to figure out how to do that. I don't really think that they're. What I don't want to do is I don't want to roll those as standard templates into your instance, because I don't think they're that good. Those are just ideas for us all to play with while we're learning how to use TextBroker. So making them quote-unquote standard templates, I think, is to elevate them to a place they don't really belong. And so I'll get you the text to those so you can copy and paste and then start tweaking them. Also, for Aaron specifically, I know he's asleep right now, but he'll catch the replay and appreciate this. The TextBroker templates are plain text. So no XML trickiness like ampersands, okay? You can actually use an ampersand without doing ampersand AMP semi, right? So just bear that in mind. They're a little bit easier to edit than mTurk question templates, for example, okay, which is kind of a geeky technical thing to do. Let's see, what else do I need to say about that? I think that's it. That's all that comes to mind. Do we have any questions before we finish up?
Let's see, there's one more down there, GJA.
GJA. Let me get the right screen here. Sorry. Their names were Gronk and Shanti. Whatever. Can the accepted written content then go into an RSS venue? Sure. Let's see what's going to come out of that. See the accepted written content and go into it. Yes, that's true. Now there's Dan.
I don't think you'd want to.
But yeah, it depends on what you're trying to do with it. I guess is the you can yes it can, but then what? The reason the reason for the RSS venue is really to be able to tie into some chewing gum thing. Because bear in mind that the nature of RSS. Okay, so what is the address that's going to appear on an item in the RSS venue that comes out of ResultFlow? The only truthful answer, the only one that actually really satisfies the description of uniform resource locator, right? That's all right. Is a workspace URL in ResultFlow. So what you would not want to do is take an RSS venue and then post that to Facebook. Really the Facebook link is going to say something like http://yourappname.resultflow.com/workspace:/long ass string that doesn't mean anything to anybody.
It's going to say alfresco like 9 times, and you're just not going to want to do that.
And they posted an update that says if I had an RSS venue, I could create an article in Drupal.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay, sure. Yes, that's true. And in fact, that's one of the things that Phil keeps beating on me about. In fact, I mean that's probably him. That's one of his pseudonyms.
Oh, is that what that is? Gija.
I think that's right. Gija. Yeah, Phil, is that you?
Everything is Phil. Pretty much.
And so yes, and this is the whole notion about facets and creating APIs in venues and stuff like that. So I mean, Phil, if that's you, I'm going to get you. But no, and so yes, you can absolutely. And then the question is whether you need special attributes or any of the other things that we've been talking about there. But you can absolutely dump anything into an RSS venue. Just bear in mind that it's not going to have any externally recognizable URL. That doesn't make sense. Yes, I could lie. I could allow you with some trickery to define the venue so they say, okay, so instead of using the ResultFlow URL, what I want you to do is I want you to use some other URL you either make up from scratch or you use the feed item URL like we're doing with script flows. Yes, I could do that. It's a lie. So I can't. It's like I could create something that created an RSS feed output that said it was from marketersbraintrust.com. It's not. It's from ResultFlow. Okay.
Okay. Phil and I would still like you to lie.
And that's Bobby, by the way.
Give us a way to lie.
Yeah, Bobby is the other Drupal fan person. And so yeah, and that's fine, but there are some repercussions about that. I don't think that everyone actually. And Dan, I don't think you understand it either. What that really means.
No, I don't want to believe in repercussions or any of that kind of stuff. Actually, I just want to
it's like
give me what I want, and then if it breaks later, I'll blame you then. But first, do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. So.
Is there some sort of Hippocratic oath you have to take with this creation?
Yeah, I mean, RSS feeds are not actually delivered under oath, Leslie.
Well, okay, but I just do not break the internet. So anyway, today at least. So
I want to.
I know you always
really
want to.
After 15 minutes of fighting with the internet, you're not ready to go ahead.
Well, fair enough. Yes, I am. I'm ready to shoot myself or the internet. Okay, certainly the writers of the HTTP spec, but don't get me started about the problems there. Okay, so that's yes. I mean, the RSS venue you can definitely dump it in there, and as long as you have whatever processing foo on Drupal, as long as that's good for you, then great.
As long as you strip out that link, that's it's true, but it's the kind of ugly truth that nobody wants.
Well, you're gonna throw that away. That's the point. If she's talking about creating an article in Drupal, so she's gonna just
strip out the body and use it. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's that's perfect. I mean, that's what it's really for. Is some outside processing. We're going to take that and go into some other system.
Scrape it.
Right. That doesn't need to care about where it came from.
And just ignore that ugly link that is useful for nothing.
Because, I mean, the alternative, which I actually considered, was WebDAV. But WebDAV is way harder to use. And so, you know, our RSS is the lingua franca, right? And so...
yeah, don't do that. But I just want one that actually I can pass the original feed item URL through, and so have an RSS feed of items from different sources.
Right, so you're actually talking about merging.
And do this for me, just not today.
Well, merging sources like that's fine. I mean, now bear in mind that doesn't work with something like mturk, text broker, scripting workflows. None of that. It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, it has to work with all that stuff too.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make any sense. First of all, a text broker does not have any feed item URL.
You know, fine. If you want things to make sense, Leslie, you stay in Software Planet. I'm going to stay in Imaginary World here. So do we have any other questions?
I don't think so, other than from your Dan. All right. Let's see.
No, give me a second. Yeah.
Do we have anything on Slack?
Let's take a look in Slack. I see nothing new. TB templates pinned in Slack would be appreciated.
Pinned, I'm not sure about, but yeah.
You can upload the file.
If you upload it, they can get pinned. Someone can pin it, or you can pin it.
Okay, that's
but
what I know about.
Pinned, but not Pinterested. So
yes,
it's actually
gotcha.
a feature inside of Slack.
So it's an S pin.
Okay. It's a spin.
Yeah. A spin. It could be a spin. It could be spun. Okay. Yes, I can do that as soon as we get off the call. Right. I'll be happy to do that. Yeah. Well, you won't be able to use it until tomorrow, but yeah, whatever. And that's when you'll get the slides too, and hopefully a couple of little slides, because I kind of skipped over some of the plumbing. I should probably actually show you the details of that. So I'll add those slides to the deck. Okay. So was that the rest of our questions? Let's see. So let's see. And so where week 7, which is actually there was another week in there, so we have our bonus week, which will be next week. So week 8 we'll do. Next week we'll do our wrap up, and there will be some new stuff then, right? So there's a tweak to the delay workflow. Actually, it's the tweak to the way clone and delay can be used together. Let me put it that way. Right. So anyway, there's
the way it works right now. You have to do things in the right order because one of them copies and the other one moves.
Sort of, yeah. Call it that, yeah. And so
well, they do the same thing as the copy and move actions that you do in the manual interface.
Exactly. Yes, that's correct.
So also for next week, I should actually have the first draft, at least the first chunk of the cookbook done, which is
good.
So it's, for example, my lazy thought leader shipper workflow boiled down to actually screen steps to how to build one of your own in ResultFlow. And so what I'm doing is I'm taking kind of the real world use cases that people have and I'm boiling them down to, in some cases with people I've taken weird convoluted things and simplified it to the 3 steps that it actually is rather than the 477 that Phil likes to use. And I'm picking on Phil because I'm not actually working with Phil on this, but I've seen the kind of abominations that he creates, the flow charts, the scary. But also, through that, I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of mix in a little bit of teaching content in terms of how things work. And so, obviously, the delay and clone thing is going to change a little bit.
Yeah. There's actually the way you're using it shouldn't, but a couple of use cases will. I think I have to go look.
Well, the thing I'm doing doesn't break it now, so hopefully won't break it in the future.
It won't.
The things that people are doing now that break it, maybe we'll stop breaking it. Would be nice.
Yes, that's the current ask. Yes, indeed. And so all it has to do with is the dates on copies of things.
Yeah, and actually fixing that will allow me to simplify some workflows,
which is always good.
Currently more complicated. That is, they involve more folders and stuff than I want them to, just because I have to split things very early on with the delays rather than doing that later.
Right. Yeah. And so that one item will be there. I mean, obviously, we'll have a lot more experience with Text Broker at that point. I'll be able to show you a little bit more of the content on Fit Living and how that's working out.
Yeah. Somebody will have broken Text Broker by then, for sure.
Well, that's our goal internally, to try to break as much as we can for you, Leslie. We do that out of love.
Yeah. I really appreciate it.
Greg White just asked a great question, and certainly something to think about. Can that cookbook be used as a wiki so others can contribute? Or could we create, and I would go further, say, could we create a wiki where we do some best practices and sharing among ourselves?
We can, in theory. There's lots of things that we can do in theory. The tool I'm using for the cookbook is Screen Steps. And so, kind of if we're going to get contributions, we'd probably want them to be in, some kind of Screen Steps portable format so that we can have everything in one format rather than a wiki shouldn't be a Tower of Babel, as they say, right?
Yeah, I have to think about how we make sense of that.
Yeah, I dig that. I mean, right, Leslie, you're working on, at some point we're actually going to be able to have kind of these, not pre-built workflows, but a predefined kind of like, a drop-down menu that says install me take me through the lazy thought leadership or wizard, right? At some point where we'll be able to have those things that are preloaded in a like a persona full of templates, so you've got examples to work from is where we'll start. But eventually, right, we'll get to a place where you can just build stuff, and then someday in the future after that, you'll actually be able to share those templates with each other, maybe possibly in the future, if we can figure out how to get Leslie to stop panicking now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no. I mean, the notion of kind of an export import for for lack of a better term, campaign, or a system or process, right? That's that's in the cards. It's in the works. It's as you might imagine,
somewhere around the point where we get visual diagramming, that becomes possible, or at least plausible to do within ResultFlow rather than as some sort of an external thing like Screen Steps.
Yeah, I think actually it's before the visual diagrammer.
Okay. Nice.
But it's sometime after being able to copy and delete personas. Right now, that's broken because of the change in the workflow rules. But I mean, so we'll get. I mean, I think that kind of the stepwise we get there is that we'll be able to in the next dot release we'll be able to copy and delete personas. Right now, you have to do that tediously by hand by deleting the workflow rules and deleting all the workflows and then deleting the persona, right? Copying is not even possible at all if there are any workflows or workflow rules running. And that was in version 3. For those of you who remember version 3, you could actually do that, but it's just that the workflow rule system in version 4 and the credential stuff for the new venue definitions, it doesn't work. So
more powerful but less forgiving.
Well, right now, and it just didn't make the release. And so once we get like delete and copy of personas working, then we at least have the option of doing something that would say, hey, plug in this persona that has a whole bunch of things defined in it, and then you could copy that and delete things as you like. So we could have like a big toolbox persona, right? That had a whole bunch of different things in it in different folders, and you could bring that in, and then you could delete what you want or copy what you want or whatever from there. So that's at least a first step of getting to something where there's like predefined stuff already loaded into your instance. After that, then we have an actual import-export thing in mind where literally you can say, I've built this great system that I want, and that I want to share with other people, and I can export it, and it can be imported in somebody else's instance. Then after that, there's kind of next steps about wizards and diagrammers. Okay, so but we're talking about some weeks and months out to really fully realize that.
So talking paperclip in September.
Talking paperclip.
Not gonna have Clippy for your wizards. It looks like you're trying to create a workflow. Would you like some help?
Oh God, it's been used so long since I used Windows. I didn't even recognize the reference. Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, good for me, right? So, all right, that's everything I have for today. Are we anybody else jump in there, a late question or not?
Nothing else other than the slides, but that's already a given.
Yeah, so slides are given.
Slides are a given, and no, I think that's it, guys. What a great day! I'm so glad we got the Hangout working. We as being in you, but you know.
Actually.
I'm really glad that the engineer is doing that part of it. That's so much better for me.
I feel better knowing someone with as much technically savvy as Leslie is starting up our Hangout eventually.
Yeah, okay, that's Dan's sarcasm voice for those of you who don't recognize it. So,
no, I am glad that you're doing it, though. Seriously, if
Yeah.
I was doing it, I would have thrown the computer instead of getting it up and running. So,
and that was my grateful voice that it's not me. So.
Okay, that's not you.
Thank you for being someone else, Leslie. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then someone else can do it.
Can't you just feel the love? Okay, very good. So we will see you all next week, same time, same bat channel. And we'll have like cookbook and some updates and some things like that, recap everything. Obviously, at this point, any questions you have, like let's get them in. Let's get this stuff worked out. And also, some of you I know are having some interesting results and successes with results, and so hey, it would be good to actually get some good news occasionally too, instead of bug reports. And so please get those in there as well.
Share all the good news with Dan and all the bug reports with Leslie. You don't want to distract him with good news.
Oh, no one would have to happen. Okay. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.